Hi, this is James with thegalaxyclubdallas.com, and we are with Chrystal Anne, author of Hell's Gate Awakening, and we're going to have her tell us a little bit about that book. If you would, Chrystal, what's the book about, and the main character and the plot behind, or as much of the plot as you can give us.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a fantasy horror, is what I refer to it as. I'm going to answer that a little bit with a question, and the question is, what would you do if you were a demon and everyone in your life that knew you and cared about you knew about it, but you didn't? And so that's kind of my basis for the main character. Is she has these interactions with the supernatural. When she's young, she sees these, crazy creatures and beasts that kind of interlace in her world, and she thinks she's crazy. And then as she gets older, she begins to have these experiences, and she's just not able to deny it anymore. And she has to basically learn how to embrace this part of herself and, fulfill her destiny and even, carve out her own fate.
Okay, when we spoke the other day, we talked about the different types of research that you had to do. Tell us about going to Japan and doing research into Eastern mysticism and Eastern philosophies. Well,
some of my biggest influences growing up was I read a lot of manga, and I was always interested in anime. And my stepfather, whom was Chinese, he always kind of nurtured that aspect of it. And, as I got older, I grew more into this, really wanting to learn the culture and more aspects of their beliefs. And, they kind of branched off from China's, Buddhism and everything. And they had this, post-Han, they had Shintoism. And I think they had it before that, but they kind of started creating this whole hell thing, which I was interested in. These, I think it's called the 9 levels of hell, or sorry, not hell, judgment. And so I really started getting into this whole Shintoism thing. And when I went to Japan, I not only wanted to study modern day Japan, which is what I really wanted to get the transit system down, the people, just get a vibe for the city, because when you walk into a city, every city has its own feel to it. Tokyo certainly had that. And, I asked my friend who lives over there in Aomori. I, constantly was badgering her, so I'm sure I drove her crazy, but, just asking cultural questions. And then I went into studying Shintoism while I was over there, and asking, local shrines and whatnot, different verifying websites and everything I checked over for research. But yeah, I really wanted to find out for myself, so that was what a big part of this trip was about.
Okay, what was your most memorable moment from the trip?
Oh boy, my most memorable moment. So I spent about 3 to 4 days in Tokyo, and I went down to Hakone, which is just south of Tokyo. And I wanted to go check out Mount Fuji and everything, and also kind of wanted to have this traditional experience. So I went to an onsen, which is a very traditional inn. They offer the Western style bed, but I wasn't about to do that. It had the paper doors, it had the tatami, and, I had the futon rolled out and everything. I was going to do the whole deal, and that's what I did. Well, there were these big bay windows in the room, and I walked in, I got all settled in after going up the mountain on this bus, and I get there and I get settled in my room, and thankfully I knew enough Japanese to get me through, because out in the country they don't see, although Hakone isn't like country, but out there they don't speak as much English, so the poor guy was struggling to talk with me, but thankfully I knew enough. So I get to the room and I set my stuff down, I get my laptop set up, and I'm really into this spooky part of the story. I'm writing it, and I finally look up, and it's about 12:30, 1 a.m. in the morning, and I get up and I turn around, I go to the bathroom, and I come back out, and I flip off the light, and there's this man standing outside of my window. And I just let out this, blood-curdling scream. And I had these I think they were high school kids on vacation, next door to me. And they're waking up like, what is going on? And, in the room next door. And, I see the guy jump and he drops what he was holding and he takes off. Well, after calming down, I realized he was the gardener. What he was doing outside of my room.
That whole gardening at midnight,
I don't know, but, I settled down feeling completely embarrassed. I'm turning red thinking about it. And, I left that morning to go for breakfast. And the guy meets me in the hallway and he's just profusely apologizing to me like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. So, I'm like, it's okay. But yeah, I can laugh about it now. But at the time, I was in this room that looked like it could have been on the set of The Ring from Japan, well, Ringu, the Japanese version. So I'm envisioning all these things that the Japanese and Korean hair monsters that sit up in the corner and everything. I was just like, oh my gosh, but that was definitely memorable for me.
So at what age did you, was there like in a very early age that you thought that you were going to be a writer, or was it something that happened later in life?
No, nothing as romantic as that. But I used to write a lot of short stories as a child, and I didn't really think, oh yeah, this is going to be my career. This is what I'm going to do. I just really love doing it. I would daydream in class, and I'd get in trouble for it all the time. And I guess that was indicative that that's what I should have been doing, because I've always just been this wildly and inventive, very high powerful imagery kind of person. And I didn't really discover that's what I wanted to do until I had about 20 or 21.
With that, now, is this, you've written, I think you mentioned something about writing short stories, how long have you been doing that, and then at what point did you decide that you wanted to write a trilogy?
The idea really started culminating around, gosh, because I started writing it, Hell's Gate, about 7 years ago, and didn't really start picking it up again, and I waited about 3 years and then picked it up again. And basically I started really thinking on it about 2.5, 3 years ago, and that's when it just kind of started coming into this trilogy and this burning idea about this, this main character who essentially she comes to find out is a product of two deities, and this whole other world outside of our world. I was, as with anybody else that's enthralled with fantasy, you're captivated by this world that is unseen, and that's what I wanted to capture. What would this world look like? What would these characters be like? What would this character see that other people can't see? Just all of this that really fascinated me. And I guess short stories, I've probably been writing short stories since I was in grade school. So I mean I still have some. Unfortunately, our house burned when I was a kid, so I lost a lot of those older stories. But I have some that I started I guess around 9th grade in high school and through till now. So
do you occasionally publish short stories now while you're writing the main story?
I haven't. I'm actually putting several together to put into like an anthology and publish that. So that's what I'm working towards right now. I have a lot up on writing.com.
Okay. What books have been an influence?
Well, I'm a really big fan of what they're referring to as the New Weird. And that would be under, let's see, an author that I'm really fond of is China Miéville, and he is really well known for doing the New Weird. And also I really enjoy Chris Wooding. I grew up reading the Broken Sky trilogy, and I think I just started recently reading The Black Lung Captain, which is one that he released, I think either last year or the year before. I think it might have been the year before, and that one is really really fun, like sky sky pirate-esque kind of story, so I really like it.
Cool. What's the hardest part of writing a book that you've run into so far?
I'd say the hardest part about writing a book for me is trying to really convey what's in my mind. The hardest part is, taking all of these abstract ideas and really putting them into something that is very clear for another person to understand. So for me, it's a struggle of being able to really take that language in my mind and mold it and put it onto a page for someone else to enjoy. And sometimes it takes a little bit of fine tweaking.
If you run into writer's block, what's your technique for getting out of it?
Oh boy. Oddly enough, when I get writer's block, I write another story. So I'll write a short, or I'll write an idea, or I'll start, just recording thoughts that are running through my mind. And if I find I'm just not having a good day, and I can't get this idea, out, what I do is I run. So I get out and I just start running and running and running, and for some reason, maybe it's the cadence and the monotony, my mind really starts culminating these ideas, and I'm able to really focus on where I'm going, what direction with that chapter, and I'm able to push through it.
This question is usually asked more of seasoned authors and everything, but with you being new to the game and everything, what's something that you would tell somebody else that maybe hasn't started yet? What would be the one advice for them to get them started?
For someone that's just kind of starting out, or are you wanting for someone that's
maybe hasn't actually started writing at all, but they've got ideas? What would be the first thing to get them over that hump?
Really, and I think anyone could agree with this, is just start writing. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if you start at the middle of the story or the end of the story, or you just have these kind of convoluted, choppy ideas, just write them down. And you'd be surprised and amazed that when you start writing, it just starts coming naturally to you. So really, the more you write, the more it just starts flowing from your fingertips.
Okay, and I didn't get a chance to make it this last weekend, but you released a movie book trailer that you had filmed, and that was at Madness Comics, and I'll actually have a link for that after the interview and everything. But for promotional purposes, you've done an actual movie trailer for it.
Yes.
What are some other things that you've got coming out pretty soon? What are more ideas that you're going to do with this book?
With the book, basically we're trying to get it adapted. I'm getting some artists together, and maybe some additional writers that can help when I don't have time. But basically, I'm wanting to adapt this into a graphic novel, and we're also going to be pitching this idea and the extended trailer to either Kickstarter or Indiegogo, one of the two. We haven't decided which. And hopefully we can raise enough funds to turn it into a series. That's what I'm really hoping for. So. And
you've mentioned also possible movie rights, and let's see, what was the other thing? Oh, an audiobook.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to be working on 2 different versions of the audiobook, because some people have a preference for, a male voice or a female voice. So we're like, we're going to record both and put it out there and let people decide, who they want to listen to. But yeah, we're also, recently right now, we're taking some of the extra footage from the trailer that wasn't able to work cohesively with the trailer, because you always have that leftover, what we call B-roll. And we're going to turn that into a music video to promote it. So it's going to be really fun. I'm working on I have the lyrics written out, and we're working on the music score right now.
Exceptional. All right, that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about. If you want to, have you got a website set up? Where can they go to find more information about this?
You can find me on Twitter. If you do my first name, Chrystal, and it's spelled with an H, underscore, Anne with an E, underscore. That's me on Twitter. And then Facebook is Chrystal Anne Books. You can find me on Amazon under Chrystal Anne, Hell's Gate if you search that up. And if you search on YouTube, you can find Chrystal Anne on YouTube as well. Okay.
And I'll have links posted on the YouTube video in the comment sections or down in the description section so that everybody can track those down. I appreciate you talking with us today. And again, that's Chrystal Anne with Hell's Gate Awakening. You can find it at your favorite online bookstores, and look for her in the future for finishing out the series. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.